Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me today. The UAW is about to negotiate a new deal with the big three automakers out of Detroit. And if they get what they want, this is probably going to cause a lot of unintended consequences in the American car market. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. So the topic for today's video begins with this piece from Phoebe from the Detroit Free Press. UAW President Shawn Fain reveals audacious member demands, he says, push back on greed. Now, the UAW, in case you're not familiar, is a United Auto Workers Union, and this union has negotiations starting right about now, and there's a deadline on September 14th with the UAW and the Big Three. The Big Three, of course, out of Detroit is GM, Ford, and Chrysler. Now, the big thing that the president is looking for is for a 32-hour work week. Some of the justification for that is COVID-19 has taught people to live life, not work 60 to 80 hours a week. We shouldn't have to spend 7 days a week, 12 hours a day living in factories. Now, essentially, UAW is just calling for less time spent on work per person in the factories. And this is really within the context that GM, Ford, and Chrysler, for the first half of 2023, they've brought in about $21 billion in profits in the first half of the year. I think if somebody doesn't want to work that hard or that long, or for whatever company, they shouldn't have to. And generally speaking, if people are spending more time with family and doing things they enjoy, let's say hobbies or just not working, it's generally good. However, if the UAW were to win, I think this will backfire tremendously on not just the UAW, but also the Big Three. If you're enjoying this so far, throw me a like. Thank you so much. Now, the reason why this will backfire massively on both the UAW and the Big Three is because EV growth is accelerating. If we look at the total sales in 2013 through 2022, you can see the green bar is EV, battery electric vehicle sales only, and you can see this exponential growth for those cars. Now, you see a lot of investment from legacy automakers that are trying to prepare themselves for that growth. You can see Subaru shifts focus to EVs with plans for 8 electric models by 2028. You have a brand new charging partnership between GM, BMW, Honda, and a bunch of other automakers. You also see a loan that was given from the Department of Energy to Ford, which was $9.2 billion to build electric vehicle factories. Now, legacy automakers and the Big Three are investing a lot of money on the growth and really capitalizing on this market. However, the big trend that's happening right now is that if we take Ford as an example, which is one of those Big Three, their losses are accelerating when it comes to selling EVs. And this is normal as electric vehicle makers really ramp their business. However, it really highlights the conundrum of what UAW is trying to get achieved here. And so the takeaway from that chart is that losses are accelerating on a growing business. The more Ford is selling in this example, the more they're incurring losses. And that is going to be really prototypical for every single other legacy automaker. Unfortunately, Ford is the only one that shows their earnings, but I can assure you that every other automaker is experiencing the same level of complexity as they grow their EV business. It's very, very hard to grow an auto business without losing a lot of money. Lucid shows this, Rivian showed this, is still showing this, Tesla has shown this for really its history up until the last few years. So it's a very tough business to grow in. Now, to really put this in context of what this means for the Big Three and how far behind they are in investing in EVs, the Big Three total EV sales to dealers in the first half of 2023 was about 70,000 units sold to the dealership network, which then the dealership network will turn around and sell to customers, but 70,000 sold to dealers. If we compare it to the largest EV maker in the world, which is Tesla, that company alone has made about 900,000 in the same time period. Tesla alone makes 13 times more EVs than the Detroit Three combined. So GM, Ford, and Chrysler combined make 13 times less EVs than Tesla, and Ford is already losing $1 billion per quarter, so every 3 months on the EVs that they sell, and you add on GM's losses, Chrysler's losses, so on and so forth. And this is, of course, accelerating. Tesla has plans in releasing a new pickup truck, which looks crazy, and I'm sure you've seen some pictures of it. And they're also working on a compact car, which is probably going to double or triple their sales in the long term. Tesla alone has a goal of 20 million cars per year by the end of 2030. And there's also automakers in China that are really aspiring to sell a lot of EVs as well. So you have Chinese automakers that want to sell electric cars across America and Europe. And another key thing thing to keep in mind is that Tesla and Chinese auto, the culture they have around building and just working on things is very different. Tesla is not unionized, and Chinese automakers have completely different labor laws than the legacy automakers do here in the United States and in Europe as well. I can speak for Tesla because I worked there for a little over 4 years. So there are giant changes coming to the auto market. It's not going to be what it has been forever. You have these giant EV makers really starting to ramp up their business and investing so much effort and money in growing that side of the business. However, the big three, what they really need to do in this world when EVs become just everything, they need to sell way more EVs to survive. And just comparing those big three to one single automaker, they're 13 times behind. They're selling 13 times less cars than just one player, in this case, Tesla. It will require immense amount of work from everyone at these legacy automakers to be able to survive in this new generation of transportation. And what's crazy here is that GM, Ford, and Chrysler are already handicapped when it comes to their EV growth. All we need to look at is their sales. But then these negotiations will make them handicapped even further. And why is that? GM, Ford, and Chrysler, or Stellantis, whatever you want to call them, combined have about $250 billion in long-term debt that is tied to that business that is going away, which is the gas car. So that's a lot of money that these companies have to pay off over time on a business that is going away. So think about what that entails. You have a EV business that's very small, that's losing a lot of money, and then your gas car business is going away, and you have this much money you have to pay back. Seems like a pretty big deal. And then they also have hundreds of billions of dollars tied up in ICE assets. ICE is internal combustion engine, which is a fancy word for basically gas car. But these companies have a ton of factories and a ton of labor and things that they've bought that are tied up on a technology that's going to go away. And they don't have enough sales right now in EVs to try and recoup those future losses that are going to come from gas cars going away. So there needs to be more work to survive, not less. I'll say that again. There needs to be more work to survive, not less. And what's a big bummer about this negotiation here with the UAW, on the surface level, is not a bad thing to say, hey, our workers should work less and get paid the same. It's good for their sort of mental health and physical health. Great, I agree. But the problem is that for those specific companies, that policy is painfully short-sighted. Everyone should live a balanced life, but forcing a balanced life when hard work is required to survive, that, in my opinion, is a recipe for disaster. I hope I outlined some of the challenges that legacy automakers, specifically the big three, are facing and why more work is required to navigate those things, not less work. It's going to require a lot of people to put in incredible amounts of hours and effort in every single position to be able to transition out of the gas car business to the EV business. Unions can be helpful, but the big three, in my opinion, is getting the wrong kind of help. You need folks to be able to work as much as they can to help the company survive at every single level, not just engineers, but at the factory level as well, because that's really where the work happens. And me personally, I'm generally pro-union. I don't think there's anything wrong with unions inherently. And I hope I really painted this picture clearly, is that these companies have a lot of work ahead of them, and requiring people to work less is going to be a big, big problem as they transition into electric vehicles. You could have more freedom in the short term. These workers could, work a little bit less and have more time with family and friends. But that in itself could result in these companies not existing anymore because they don't have the people working there and working as hard as they can to make that transition happen. $250 billion in debt between the three companies, $1 billion per quarter losses from Ford, and they're going to require a lot of hard work to get those cars out into the streets and into the dealers and in customers' hands. And to me, that sounds like they need as much help as possible, not some policies that hopefully don't end in disaster. But I would love to hear what you think. This is a complex issue. There's a lot of things going on here, but this is my opinion, but I'd love to hear yours. Let me know in the comment section below what you think. And I want to thank every single person that has watched my video, especially those that keep returning to watch my videos. Thank you so much for your support. Real quick, it looks like 56% of you are not subscribed, folks that are coming back. So in case you forgot or in case you want to support the channel, feel free to click subscribe. It will really help me get bigger and bigger guests over time as I grow this channel. Thank you so much for your support. Or if you want to support the channel by purchasing some merch or Athletic Greens, which is a supplement I take every single morning, I have links for that in the description below. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this was informative and helpful, and we'll see you on the next one. Take it easy, everybody. Bye-bye.